bring our meeting of the Fairburn City Council government to order. At this time, Ms. City Clerk, would you please call the roll of the City Council?
The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Linda J. Davis.
Present.
The Honorable Pat Palin.
Present.
The Honorable Ulysses Smallwood.
Present.
The Honorable Alex Heath.
Present.
The Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
Honorable James Whitmore.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, at this time, will the Pastor Cornetta Frazier please come on up, and would you all please stand? Yes.
Amen. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, God, we thank you, Lord Jesus, for this great opportunity, Lord, to come again before your presence. Now, Lord Jesus, we thank you, God. Lord, bless this meeting on tonight, God. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful city of Fairburn. God, bless each and every home. Lord, we thank you for blessing the community. Thank you for blessing our firemen, our policemen, and our honorable mayor and his family. And Lord, we will continue to give you the honor and glory. Lord, we know that we are in perilous times, but we also know that you are the great I am, and you are the one that continues to make ways out of no ways. And for that, we give you the honor, the glory, and the praise. In Jesus' matchless name, amen.
Okay, in this case, give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Turn this watch off. It'll ring again.
Next, we will have presentations, the State of the City Address.
Trying to turn it off. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Again, I want to thank for those that are watching by stream and those that are here in person. I want to just thank you so much. City of Fairburn had a great 2022 year. One of the things that I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm going to ask for a moment of personal privilege. Before I present, I normally just make it a point to say a short prayer. If you don't mind, that's just something I do. So I'll have to ask you to oblige me. Father, we come before your presence with thanksgiving, and we enter into your course with praise. Father, let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, let everything that's presented be accepted in your sight. Amen.
Amen.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm going to start off, first of all, if you go to, actually, I guess, I'm going to ask somebody to drive for me. We can go to the next slide. The city of Fairburn, one of the things that, let's see. We'll be right with you. Okay. As you see the mayor and council, pictures of the mayor and council, but ladies and gentlemen, I want to go to the next slide where we show all of our staff. These are the men and women that are actually responsible for the delivery of services. I'm going to start off of all the different state and city addresses I've done. I'm going to do this one a little different because I'm going to actually start with a more in the form of a metaphor. If you go to the next page, you'll see we'll talk about where we started, where we are today, and where we're going. And before you go to the next slide, I want to start with a metaphor. And one of the things that, and you'll understand shortly why I'm starting this perspective. I want you to assume, and most of the people that are listening, you've bought a house or aspired to buy a home, and at some point, I want you to just assume that you walked up to a plot of land that you were going to buy, and only to find out that the land with nothing on it actually has a major crater, in this case, a big hole, which means at the end of the day, you bought the land, you bought the house you want to buy. Before you can even start to buy the house, you have to actually, in this case, dig down before you can come back up. In this case, you've got to put the criteria in the ground before you can even lay a foundation. The city of Fairburn, as great as our year was, there were circumstances that the city of Fairburn and this department heads, you saw all the pictures of the department heads and the executive staff. And before I go any further, I want to just say the members of this council, all 6 members in this case, deserve credit for the success that we had, because again, it was actually, in this case, it was actually a collaborative effort, an agenda that we actually went to a retreat and came together after we realized, the staff came together and realized the foundational things that we had to put back in place before we could even start with the agenda that I ran on. In this case, the agenda started for all intents and purposes last summer, and 6 months into the administration. You understand exactly why. The reason I felt the need to, in this case, to use the metaphor, because there's circumstances that our staff, the men that work here 12, in some cases, you'll see what we talked about, we're here 12-hour days, even on Christmas Day, we'll get into that, where situations occurred that just had the leadership in all these department heads, as well as with the backing of our members of council. We had to be in unity. We had to be in lockstep. Go to the next page. As you see, when we came aboard, you'll see that we had our security, cybersecurity was compromised. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, we walked in the door with the department heads where 1 terabyte of information. 1 terabyte of information is equivalent to 1,300 file cabinets of information, file drawers that actually disappeared off our server. Ladies and gentlemen, which means our department heads, our city staff, and in this case, a lot of members of council, we were starting from ground zero for information that should have been readily available. We also had a situation where we had inadequate security of our facilities, where in this case, we've got video of information and thousands of documents that walked out the door of this government. And again, that may not seem like a lot, but for men and women that are in charge of departments, men and women that are in charge of running the government and with its legislative body, again, we had to come on one accord. You'll see where we also had a fiscal responsibility issue where the authorization of purchasing of vehicles, in this case, without council's approval. Again, one of the major staffing issues, I won't go into great detail, I'm not gonna read the slides to you in this case, but I wanted you to recognize that we started with most of our departments were 50% below staffing areas. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know any organization that can actually provide services efficiently and effectively without the manpower in place. And so again, you'll see one of the things you heard it discussed during our workshop, the comp study that, again, thanks to our mayor and council, in this case, our city council, that gave us authorization to actually budget for a comp study, whereby one of the reasons that we realized is that the men and women from top to bottom were paid 20% below the standard market practice, which means even when we tried to hire men and women in critical positions, we had a hard time just bringing on basic positions in our government. And so again, all of this had to actually be dealt with simultaneously as we actually push forward with an agenda. Go to the next page. You'll see some of the challenges that we had in our operations, and we'll talk about some of the facilities that require major upgrades. Firefighters living in conditions that was just basically unacceptable for any employer. We also had scenarios where we had a weekend where our city, actually fire department went to had a situation where our fire department did not have one operable fire engine, not one. Which means if we'd had a structure fire, we'd have been reliant on other governments to take care of our residents. You'll see one of the things that we talked about in particular, ladies and gentlemen, the telework policy, a plan to reopen the government. But what I wanted to make sure we understand, and the reason I gave you that is because you now understand what was the mission that we set for this government. Number one, that mission was to restore the integrity and the professionalism of this government. Any government worth its salt, it is the disposition of your mayor and council from both a public and behind the scenes, whether they can actually come together and work. A lot of what you're going to see that we were able to accomplish, it was, again, a combination of our department heads having the backing of the men and women that you see standing behind me. Again, most mayors would not give the members of council this level of credit. I'm going to say publicly, the 6 members of council is the reason the city of Fairburn, which you're about to see, we were able to do. Would you please give a hand to these men and women that are sitting in the seats? Next slide. Where we are. Here, we're going to talk about the things that we were able to achieve. Again, some of these achievements may not seem like a big scale, but as I go back to my former example again, the foundation that had to be put back in our government so that as we talk about programs, as we talk about activities in our city, we can ensure, number one, they're sustainable, and most of all, that we can ensure that nobody, number one, would get hurt. We can ensure that if any other government wanted to duplicate it, they would actually be able to come to the city of Fairburn and ask it, how did you do what you did? And we would be able to give them a roadmap with foundational principles. You'll see right now, one of the things that we were proud, our police department is to be commended. In 10 months of us arriving, the city of Fairburn moved up 17 spots. 17 spots, and now we're ranked as the 10th safest city in the county, in the state. That's a total of 530 cities and towns in the state of Georgia. We're now ranked number 10. Does that mean we have no crime? Absolutely not. But the one thing that we're heard, and you heard tonight in our workshop, methods and activities of forward thinking in our efforts to retain not only great firefighters and police officers, but to ensure that these men and women come here with a sense of pride when they wear the uniform. And that's for all of our employees. Our Parks and Recreation Department, and again, you'll hear me talk about, we had to go through every department in 2022. Again, a lot of what we want to get done, you will start seeing a lot of the infallible proof coming out the ground and things that have happened in mid-24 to late 24 because in this case, we had to set the foundation. You'll see in our Parks and Recreation Department, one of the things I'm very proud of, one of the things we talked about, and I want to thank Ms. Scott again, we talked about what do we do in the midst of transition? What do we do to engage our residents, both young and old? Right now, please go on the City of Fairburn website and look at the numerous activities. I can't cover all the activities that the Recreation Department does in one presentation, but please, there's numerous activities, and so we need you to go and look at what the services that we're offering as we cater to our youth and our seniors that's been here for years. One of the things, too, you'll see where we talked about, again, in our efforts to bring our city together in unity for the Christmas tree lighting. We brought our Christmas tree lighting, in this case, with an actual fireworks show. We actually had our relaunch of our Fairburn Festival. We actually brought Frank Ski, Kiss 104, in our efforts in this case, to make it known that the city of Fairburn is open for business, and we're all about bringing our citizens, our business owners together. One of the areas you'll see we're very proud about is our police department. You heard me mention it earlier. There's been a reorganization of command staff. One of the reasons someone asked me what contributed to the reduction of crime in such a short period of time. If you'll notice in that second bullet of the flock cameras, if you're not careful, you're going to run into a police camera in the city of Fairburn. I'd make that no secret that between our road stops and between our flock cameras, our goal is we want the criminals to go around Fairburn. We don't want them coming through here. I make that no secret.
Yes.
Next slide. One of the things that we're very proud of, ladies and gentlemen, any healthy city, you make it a point to have activities in the case where residents, employees can come together and put all their differences aside. Again, you see where we had various events. We also quantified the numbers so that we can keep up with what do we do to increase the numbers, or what do we do to maintain the numbers. Again, we're very happy, again, with the various events and the participation, not only from our residents, but other cities are coming in and joining us as we make every effort to make a mark in this city that'll be talked about for decades. The next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone that knows anything about government understands that property taxes from homes don't keep your city afloat. Your commercial businesses. One of the things we're the most proud of, again, we hired a political consultant that has helped us between our economic development director, a political consultant, and our image consultant that we hired, has helped us to attract 40 businesses in one calendar year. That may not seem like a lot, but again, ladies and gentlemen, for every time a business opens up in the city of Fairburn, that's your tax dollars. That's a tax increase that you don't have to worry about. It's that cut and dry. Again, one of the things we're very proud of, some of these businesses open in our downtown area. You'll see where One Step Daycare, you'll see the business labor there on the right. Again, we're excited about the vision that's been set. But again, I think, as we celebrate what we were able to do and the men and women that we brought in critical positions, I just think it was very imperative that you understand what they had to overcome to get to this level of success. Next slide. Next slide. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, the utility department in this case. Our utilities, I want to actually thank Mayor Dina Holliday publicly, because it was the city of East Point that actually helped supplement some of our forces because of the manpower issue that we were having. The city of East Point, to her credit, was allowed to come and help us to maintain services. Again, one of the major things that we thought was very, very, am I on the right slide? I'm sorry.
You missed one.
I'm sorry, I slipped the slide, ladies and gentlemen. In this case, the placemaking and beautification projects. One of the things, as we talked about in the city of Fairburn, I actually want to give Mayor Hurst her due, is as you'll see the letters that are actually on that building. That was actually Mayor Hurst that ordered those buildings, those letters, as well as the letters, in this case, our administration ordered for Frank Honor. We named the courtyard in 2015 or 2016, but again, in our efforts to actually step up the identification of the specific areas in our city, we thought it was necessary in this case to utilize and actually mark the places. We're very excited also about the education campus, and you'll see where we're going to talk about that in the presentation and some of the things that we want to do at that campus. You'll see some of the crosswalks, the arts. I make it no secret, arts and crafts is the heart of our youth right now, and so we're thinking about different things that we could do. You'll see at the various crosswalks at Duncan Park, the Youth Center, Campbell Elementary. You'll see in the walkways where the Arts and Craft Art Council played a major role in helping us again to bring the arts to another whole level in the city of Fairburn. When we talk about the street department, this is a department, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that gets a lot of gets a lot of complaints. But this is an area that will make all the difference. Again, when people come through your city, one of the first things they notice, number one, the cleanliness of your city. They notice the signage that's missing everywhere. One of the things that we did as recent as even today, on my way here, I mentioned to the city manager, I saw another sign that was put up last week. It's down again. Let's go and replace it. And so, again, we went through the different parts of the city in our efforts, in the different subdivisions, in our efforts to replace signage that was just completely outdated, or in this case was completely destroyed, in our efforts again to work on our beautification. One of the things I'm very excited about, you'll see, if you go to the city of Fairburn, fairburn.com, you'll see where the C-Clicks Fix, a mobile app in this case for residents. We're trying to continue to open communication between our city council and our residents, the mayor and the residents, and our city staff. This application here is going to help us keep our city clean. We can't see everything, we can't do everything, but if you're out there with this app helping us to bring to our attention different situations, one of the things I'm very impressed with right now, ladies and gentlemen, as we work on, it's a work in progress, we make it no secret, the city administration staff has made it no secret, customer service in this case is not an option. We may not be able to address everything you need immediately, but you will get a response, and that's something we're working on. This is why we created this app, so that we can also keep up with requests that are made.
Yes.
Next slide. And our utilities. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, again, as I mentioned earlier, I want to thank Dina Holliday, the mayor of East Point, that helped the city of Fairburn when we were so short in terms of manpower. It was virtually impossible for the few men and women that were actually in the department to actually be able to do the work. And so, and again, I want to commend the director of that department that was able to negotiate that partnership. And so, again, I want to just say, again, we're very happy with some of the low-income programs that we've assistance programs that you'll see right there, whether it be the water assistance program or the toilet rebate. But, again, the part that I want to make sure that we walk away with, again, ladies and gentlemen, our staffing, both in water, sewer, electricity. Again, with pipes that were busted all over the street, a lot of the times when you saw them running for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, it was because there was nobody to do the work. We're very excited that we've staffed our positions. We've staffed these agencies. A lot of the agencies with the new personnel are still going through training so that they can actually be accountable to the management of those departments to ensure that we provide efficient and effective service. I want to talk about our municipal court. One of the things in Ferguson in 2016, the courts mandated that the state court, that the city court and the police department could not be merged. That was one of the first things when I walked in the door, because I was aware of the merger, I asked Judge Ewan, what do we need to do to separate and bring our city court in compliance of state law? One of the things that you'll see also that as me and Judge Ewan talked about, what are the things that will ensure efficiency and ensure people don't sit up in a courtroom all day losing wages over something as simple as a traffic ticket, and that's why our courts is still virtual, because at this point it's the most effective and efficient way. And so one of the things that I'm very proud of too, you'll see the amnesty program that was actually allowed, where we talked about delinquent citations. The city of Duluth, as of last week, actually executed this very same program, because again, the city of Fairburn, in this case, you'll see where we led the way in several situations in 2022. Unknowingly, we led the way as it relates to being the first person to address certain programs efficiently and effectively. Our fire department, in this case, our fire department is now full command staff firefighters. You heard us in the workshop talked about we just graduated 15 firefighters. Go to the next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I was very adamant about, my father's a retired firefighter from the city of Atlanta, so this department holds a special place in my heart along with police. One of the things that I was very concerned about, not only did we not have we had a situation where we did not have an apparatus to go with a structure fire, we ended up having to buy 16 pieces of equipment, in this case 4 fire trucks and several other safety events. We had a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where our firefighters rode up on a scene and the equipment broke down in the midst of a structure fire. And so that's why, me and other mayors take it for granted, I don't, that the mayor and the council allowed us to purchase equipment that was going to save somebody's life. In this case, in my mind, this was about life and death. And so when we look at the T-Splash, you look at the area where we're dealing with resurfacing, I'm very proud that we started last year. Again, all the previous year, T-Splash, the money was actually executed and used, rightfully so. I felt like we needed to start showing the people where their money going. You'll see 13 miles of street that was actually paved in the city of Fairburn. We had several streets that was actually collapsing. And so one of the things that I think Lester Thompson, again, as he went through the different parts of the city, looking at areas of the city that just had to be addressed in 2022 because it couldn't deal, again, with roads collapsing, couldn't deal with trucks that have just destroyed our roads. And so again, that was very imperative for me and the mayor and council. You look at another area of our city, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm having a person that grew up on Bankhead Highway. For those of you from Atlanta, that's actually in the hood. And so one of the things that I'm very proud of, in 2012, I stood at the Lightning community where the playground stands now. The gentleman that lives in the house facing the playground, he would tell you, I made this promise to him in 2012. I said, there will be a day that the children in this neighborhood, despite it being a poverty area at that time, I said, we'll have a place they can play, and we'll have a place whereby kids can not worry about getting hit by cars. That was a very dangerous area for so many different reasons, both crime as well as traffic. And so I'm very proud, again, Mr. Thompson, in this case, acquired $200,000 that we spent in over the Lightning community. Again, one of the things that I'm very adamant about, ladies and gentlemen, and again, I'm just going to speak candidly, most mayors is about what I call trophy projects. In this case, we won't get any votes or anything about what we did in Lightning, but they're part of the citizens of Fairburn. They deserve our attention. Yeah. And again, and so the next slide, go to the human resources. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most critical departments that I've ever seen as a person with an HR background when I was in the military. Again, I understand HR probably from a perspective that most other elected officials don't. Here's one of the things that we understood. With a vacancy rate that we had 80 of 89 positions vacant upon arrival, that were critical positions that there's no way in the world we could actually address some of the needs and services without the men and women with institutional knowledge or years of experience in critical positions. And I'll just go straight down from top to bottom. You'll see the city clerk. Again, I brought Ms. Brenda James back. The city clerk's office was just overwhelmed with open records requests. I don't know how Ms. Ray, the assistant clerk, ever kept up. The volume of open records, the volume of trying to maintain minutes, the volume of having to retrieve records for court, for litigation purposes. Again, one of the most critical positions that's overlooked in city government is your city clerk. In this case, we brought back, we created an assistant city administrator with all that I've talked about thus far. There's nowhere in the world one man or one woman, in this case a city administrator, can manage all that. That's why the standard practice now is for governments to actually have an assistant city manager or a city administrator. And so, again, in my efforts to bring our government up to standard market practice, we created the position and brought in a young lady that had experience in this, that could help us execute all the goals and objectives that we felt as we brought the foundation up from the ground. You'll see the economic development consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, we were blessed right now. We've got a young man right now that come with 20 years of experience. As we talked about, you heard me in a previous slide talk about the 40 businesses. The part of that was a result of having a consultant along with our economic development that helped us understand what's required to market your city. What is required, what is it, the areas that you can realistically, markets that you can acquire in your city. And so we're working on a few projects, again, with his experience in economic development department. Again, we believe that we're going to make a mark in this region that'll be talked about for decades. The finance director, again, with the city of Fairburn, again, we conducted a forensic audit. With the loss of such critical information, a forensic audit had to be conducted in our efforts to ensure that we could pass the state required auditors that come into our government. As a matter of fact, they're here now. And so, and again, that is not an option. Your government must be in compliance with state law. As a result, we had to hire someone in finance. Our former finance director, who did a great job for us, departed and took a job 3 times the pay that I could afford. And so, and so we went and got the next best thing. And so, again, we want to welcome you, sir. Ladies and planning and zoning and the code enforcement manager. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a department that requires, and you're going to hear me talk about it a little more later. This is a department, ladies and gentlemen, that many governments will ultimately fall or fail to exist because there's zoning codes. In this case, we brought a young lady in after the departure of a great planning and zoning manager. We brought in a young lady that has a history, in this case, working in the city of Fayetteville. In this case, you see what I call it
Trilliff.
Okay, never trillage. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. But this young lady has brain experience that will help us with the vision that one day the city of Fairburn will have maybe not that particular type of success, but we're going to strive to get as close to it as we can. But here's another area why this position is so critical. Right now, I sent to our 2 state representatives a letter this weekend, and all the members of council got it, where House Bill 517, I want to make sure I quote it correctly, whereby efforts are being made to take the zoning out of city governments and allow the state of Georgia to mandate what you can and cannot bring in your city. I wrote a letter to both state representatives, in this case, State Representative Bruce as well, who was the person that originally called me and asked me where the mayor's going to speak up. I spoke up on behalf of the city of Fairburn because this is a critical position that we're dealing with as we speak, lawsuits, as we try to actually deal with our antiquated code. And this young lady, along with some of the other expertise on staff already, are going to help us bring our code to a place whereby we are not only attract any business, we attract smart growth. In this case, an investment in training. Ladies and gentlemen, I put that in there about investment in training and development. That's an old military slogan for those of you who ever wore a military uniform. That's a statement I used to hear all the time. You must inspect what you plan to invest in. And you must inspect what you want to expect.
Yes.
What that means in summary, ladies and gentlemen, the training that must go on, our training budget, again, I thank the members of council, training from code enforcement to police officers to firefighters, continuing education is something in our finance department. I don't have to tell you now that we have a new IT director in this case, a new IT director actually with the continued change in the marketplace. We have people in place now that will make sure that the city of Fairburn's protocols are not antiquated or up to code. Finance protocols change every other year, it looks like to me. And so as a result of it, the training that this mayor and council have decided that budget money we must put into training so that men and women will remain employed here. Here's one of the worst things that can happen, ladies and gentlemen, is that for you to lose a key person and only to find out when you hire someone to come in, they tell you that all of your systems are antiquated in a key position. That just cannot happen. We hired a purchasing manager in our efforts to ensure that we abide by state law as it relates to procurement rules and regulations, the request for proposals that you'll hear me talk about in a minute. You'll see also in the fiscal responsibility, the city council went on a retreat last year, and we identified the different areas that we're going to actually spend that $6.2 million. In my efforts to make sure that we're in compliance, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, I lost my place. In our efforts to make sure,
You got it?
yeah, I got notes on my board. I want to make sure I've mentioned. One of the things that we talked about in the $6.2 million, this is just to name a few, whether it's the completion of fire station number 23, the small business grants, where the RFP is actually on the street, and then a facade grant that's actually, in this case, will actually be out for determined eligibility for small businesses that are moving to the city of Fairburn. We must, ladies and gentlemen, continue to spend money effectively and responsible. Here's one of the reasons why I'm very proud of what our mayor and council did. Our city council went and decided what we were going to do with the $6 million that was in our coffer. Let me tell you something that I was totally surprised to this very day. Last summer, all the mayors in the metro, in the MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Area, 20 counties, and to my surprise, many of the mayors in some of the other regions said they were just going to return the money. And the reason they're going to return it because they could not come in agreement on what to do with the money. So they decided it would just be easy to get the money back. There's no way in the world with all the projected growth, with all the upgrades that we need in this government, I was going to give back $6 million. And so. In this case, the property management, you'll see where, again, we talked about the assessment of the city facilities. We've got facilities and buildings in our city right now that are underutilized. We got spaces that, if properly vetted and properly engineered, in this case, Dana Smith, properly reviewed, we can determine a use, an effective use for not only our city staff, but also our city residents. Again, that's in the process right now in our property management. Item that I'm very happy about. You heard me mention about our fleet was outdated. One of the things that, and I'll go back, and please excuse my vernacular, but I still remember when I arrived in 2010, my first term, and I told Chief McCarthy I want to get rid of all those Andy Griffin-looking police cars. I'll never forget that. One of the things that now I'm very happy about is that there's an enterprise fleet management program where we get to switch out vehicles every 36 months, which means it's saving us in repair costs and maintenance, massive savings. And so that's something that we're, our city staff came up with, and again, with the support of our mayor and council, again, that's going to save us a lot of money so that we can do projects and do things that we can be proud of as a government. Next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, we ended 2022 with what many will feel like a nightmare. Unfortunately, the governor declared a state of emergency, but I put this slide in here because I don't want us to forget that on Christmas Day, from Christmas Day to that Friday, the 29th, a lot of your city staff was here working because of an unexpected freeze that took place in pipes. Our utility department and several of our members of council came out and helped us as we passed out water. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in this case, we set the tone. We gave updates every 6 to 8 hours on our website. Again, we've had some suggestions from several members of council of how we could take it to another level. But the one thing that I'm very proud of, the news media said the city of Fairburn was becoming a ringleader and becoming a trendsetter as relates to communication with the residents in the time of crisis. And so we were very happy. You'll see the various news outlets, WSB, Atlanta First, CBS, and of course, WAOK, the interviews I did. Again, I don't take it for granted, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you as residents and employees on your job during the Christmas time, you fly, you go, take your children, but a lot of your staff was here. And I'm going to ask, would you please give a hand to the staff? Go to the next slide. where are we going? Ladies and gentlemen, in the midst of all that you heard already about what we were doing and what we were trying to recover and restore, the city of Fairburn did have opportunity to actually create plans of what we are trying to do in the future. And again, the city council and myself, along with the staff, went on a retreat. We're going on another one in April, whereby we talk about what is it that we want to do and come in agreement as it relates to what's best for the city of Fairburn. You'll see where, in this case, we are actually in the midst of creating a parks master plan. One of the things that I remember as a kid was born in Atlanta, in this case, and raised, the parks kept me and my family and my friends out of jail, okay? Parks. One of the things this master plan is going to do for us, we're going to build parks in different parts of the city. One of the areas that we're looking at, again, this is, I don't want to get ahead of the staff, but we're looking at projective areas on Highway 74, Ashbury Park, all these different locations where we can build parks in our efforts to bring our city together. Everybody doesn't want to cross over Interstate 85 to come to Duncan Park. But for those that wish to come to Duncan Park, we're excited about what we're going to build, a multi-purpose center in Duncan Park. Again, and so as we look at the different plans, one of the things that I want to make sure that's not overlooked in this presentation is that the RFP that's going to go out with the master plan, we're going to actually have a vendor that the people that wins this RFP, they're actually going to do the outreach, public outreach for us. They're coming to your neighborhoods. They're coming throughout the city so that we don't determine what the parks will look like. You will determine. These are your tax dollars. And so that's why this RFP is going to be so imperative as it relates to the vendor that's ultimately selected. Because, again, we want your input. And, again, a lot of it you see, a lot of the technology, a lot of the things that we're doing. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to hear the voice of our citizens. Well, again, we may not be able to address every single need, but we want to at least be able to say we hear you. One of the things that I'm very happy about in this next program, you'll see the Fairburn Teen Retrieve Technology Center. I'm not sure if I'm authorized to say where it's located. It's very important. Okay, it's in the youth center. Okay, because there's top-of-the-line, expensive equipment. Again, at the very bottom, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be teaching teens. We had a demonstration late last year whereby, in this case, we're actually going to teach teenagers how to actually become music managers, digital media, radio broadcasting. We're actually, when we partnered with the music education group whose mission is to teach students life career skills. Again, I make that no... Again, one of the things that we recognize right now, technology would not wait on you. And so we have to bring the technology to our kids. In this case right now, we're preparing them for not just the music, not just for a radio broadcast. This is actually going to teach them what teamwork is. It's going to help them understand the value of reading, the value of understanding, the value of teamwork. So there's a multi-purpose for this. But again, I'm very excited about our recreation department that decided, in this case, to partner with an agency that's actually going to teach youth and pursue, in this case, long while they're pursuing education, going on to college, they're going to understand before it's all said and done that to ultimately own your own radio station one day, you've got to go get an education. But we're going to introduce them to the craft first. Yeah. And so one of the things that I'm happy about code enforcement, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see code enforcement, in this case, some new vehicles, new computers. One of the things that we realize right now, ladies and gentlemen, again, because of the lack of training or the training that was not effective as it should be, and the lack of manpower, in this case, we've got an hours implementation, another app, another computer technology program that's going to help us keep up with the caseload. One of the other things that we're trying to make sure is that we're going to make sure, in this case, we hired a new code enforcement manager, in the case that's going to work up under Ms. Brooke, and in this case, that manager's job is going to help us make sure we don't come to court with cases and the cases thrown out due to technical mistakes or just oversights. Again, that's why we're going to properly retrain our entire code enforcement division. Again, one of the things, and again, he'll probably be happy that I'm saying this publicly, me and Bill Edwards, he was a county commissioner at that time. One of the things that he actually taught me, believe it or not, he and I didn't agree on a lot, but here's one thing that he mentioned me. If you want your city or your county or your state to actually go up in value and attract people, you ensure your code enforcement is up to code. Code enforcement is the closest thing to not having, in this case, not having bad crime. And so we're investing money in personnel and equipment to ensure our code enforcement is indicative of the quality of living that we're trying to create in the city of Fairburn when it comes to the housing market. In this case of finance, you heard me talk about already about being fiscally responsible. In this case, ensure you, for those of you that witnessed our first budget last October, one of the most professional budget hearings I've ever sat through. And again, I want to thank the city staff and all the directors that actually presented to talk about not only projections, but how they were going to pay for what we were going to do. Speaking of paying for, at our next retreat, one of the things that me and the city council are going to talk about is what is the development of a capital improvement plan. We're going to talk about how we pay, how do we plan to pay for all the various upgrades and facilities, some of the major programs and renovations and new construction. At the end of the day, you can have all the great buildings you want, but at the end of the day, taxpayers don't want to hear that my taxes going up because you didn't properly budget. And so I'm very excited again about the men and women that are in our department head positions, as well as our finance director in this case. The next slide. Went back. Just be patient with us, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, okay. The next slide in this case is economic development plan to refresh. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at different areas of our city. And so one of the things that the mayor and council in this case, we talked about at our retreat, we're looking at the different areas of our city that requires us to focus on catalytic sites, in this case, areas in our downtown, areas in Highway 74. Our goal is at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is to bring businesses and to bring markets that we can be proud of. One of the things that we believe that we have that a lot of other cities don't have, in this case, the CXX, we have a transportation hub in our city. That's a marketing tactic in this case. One of the things that with us being ranked now as the 10th safest city, that's another objective. We're looking at the different things that we're going to bring in our downtown area. We're still in dialogue. We have a property owner that owns a majority of our lots in the downtown area. We're still in negotiations and hope that we can come to terms in terms of either helping him to bring the business that he wants or allow us to find the businesses that go in those lots. That is an ongoing process. But again, I have to just be very transparent that we're constantly in communication in our efforts to fill our downtown area up. One of the things that we're talking about in our downtown area, a facade grant. In this case, the facade grant, in this case, our goal is ultimately that we will be able to convince our business owners to create a consistent look in our downtown. If you go to some of these other towns, in the northern cities in particular, you'll see it looks like a consistent look. And again, the beautification in this case is all the difference in the world when you're talking about attracting businesses, a business to the city of Fairburn. We have a small business grant that in this case will be issued. The first quarter of 2023 will actually be available for all eligible business owners in this downtown area. In this case, it'll be this summer coming, and so June. We're excited about that. This, again, is a tactic that we're employing in our efforts to attract business owners to our city. You heard me talk about the catalytic sites. In this case, again, where we're trying to create a walkable city in our downtown. We talked about this case all the way from the GMC campus all the way to City Hall, the current City Hall. And so, again, we're just in our efforts to use proper space utilization. Again, there are plans being made by our city engineer to assess what is it we can use for proper space allocation. Again, you'll see in this case where what I want to bring up finance again in this case, when we talked about ClearGov, our former, again, finance director was actually spearheading this event. But in this case, he departed right in the heart of us getting ready to launch. And so now new director, in this case, we've actually launched it internally. Our goal is to ultimately do it publicly as we ensure that it is being operated effectively and efficiently. And so we're we're very excited about that. Again, you heard me mention our procurement policy updates, ensuring that the city of Fairburn basically is in conformity with state and federal law as it relates to Davis-Bacon federal projects or just regular RFPs and invitation to bid projects. Next slide. Planning and zoning, again, this area falls up under permitting. One of the things that I became a little concerned with upon in the first quarter as I wrote the city and looked at different subdivisions that were complete or incomplete, and one of the things I looked at was the standardizing our process for our permits. And one of the things that we recognized in the process, some of the shortfalls and some of the development that we recognize is that as a result of inadequate staffing, that was improper or in the lack of inspections to the degree I think they should have been done. And again, that's no knock on any department head or any staff. Again, we had 2 to 3 people trying to inspect hundreds and hundreds of lots citywide. That's just virtually humanly impossible. And so as a result of that, we're looking at we've increased our inspection capabilities, new housing starts as an indicator of our new growth. Again, we looked at every department, and again, that's a major undertaking in a 12-month period. You look at our police department, one of the things that we're excited about our police, the cops, our cops program. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to commend our new chief, Brazitlo, as I've already run into him in a couple of public events on Sunday, whereby he understands right now our police department our police officers have to be out there in the neighborhoods. Again, we're trying to create a relationship. Again, yes, I make that no secret. We're looking for criminals, but we also want to make sure that our residents understand we're here to be your friend as well. We're not here to bother our residents, but we want to make sure you're not wanted here if your purpose for coming to the city of Fairburn. Again, I make that no secret. That gray police car, as many of you right now see, is parked in different spots all during the course of the day. As my wife, Counselor, reminds me, that makes your day when you see cops on the street. Yes, absolutely. And so we're excited about our police department. Ladies and gentlemen, having grown up in the city of Atlanta, K-9s was a common cause. We're bringing dogs back. Let me just say it, excuse my vernacular. We're bringing the dogs back. K-9 unit in the city of Fairburn. And so, and we're not bringing them back here to see just the city police cars. We're looking again to keep our neighborhoods safe and to maintain the standing that we have as the 10th safest city in the state. Again, we talked about retention. Retention is an issue in not just the police department, it's in every department. To our council's credit, again, we're looking at avenues. You've heard in our workshop earlier today, the avenues that we're looking at in housing, how we can maintain the great police officers that we've not only trained, but we've hired, and then some experienced officers that we're bringing in, and firefighters as well. Next slide, and I believe that's the last one. Our last slide, ladies and gentlemen, breaking ground on Fire Station 23. We're going to open the temporary fire station on Bahana Road, and you'll see one of the things that the Department of Labor actually commended the city of Fairburn, our EMT program, whereby there's a percentage of money they will actually donate to EMT. We had a lot of EMT candidates to go through. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, because of, unfortunately, the death rate this year has just been unreal, the one thing that we can't have is that our city of Fairburn pulls up on the scene and it's been said that the person didn't make it because we failed to render aid. Our men and women are fully trained, and that's why we're invested in public safety. And then finally, we'll begin the phase 1 of completing the Public Safety Training Center. Ladies and gentlemen, as I close, you've seen and heard why it's important to hire professionals who understand the importance of leadership with institutional knowledge. The presentation was a reflection of an agreement between mayor and council, 6 members of council. We can see what happens when government bodies can't agree, or at least when they don't work together. I'm asking our residents that look at these 6 members of council and understand that this is not a normal scenario where the men and women in your governing legislative branch will come in agreement. Again, I didn't say we always agree. You saw that during the workshop. But ladies and gentlemen, we've learned how to disagree without being disagreeable. But the part that I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of, the level of professionalism that our legislative body has been given by GMA, National League of Cities. I've had other agencies. had other agencies, haven't been a mayor before. I know mayors from other cities and states that have called me to watch at our council meeting, and they talk about the level of professionalism that not only the staff, but in this case, your legislative body. And so I'm asking you yes, is there something we can do better? You can always find something we can do better. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got an election year. Don't fall for the hokey doke, for people always talking about what we can't do right. Look at what we have, and let's build on what you just saw. And let's make a mark in this city that'll be talked about for decades. Ms. James, at this point,
We're at adoption of the city council agenda.
members of council, you have the set agenda before you. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Members of council, you have before you the city council minutes that commenced in our last city council. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Members of council, we have two items on consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the two items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. In this case, Ms. James, you want to read the next item?
The next item is Trees Unlimited Agreement. Staff recommends mayor and council approval to execute a professional service agreement with Trees Unlimited to perform the canopy clearing throughout the city utilizing a COPE agreement with Electric Cities of Georgia in an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Did you want to go ahead and, did you want to say anything about the item?
No, we'll just go straight into it.
Okay. Members of council, you have an item that's been read, and is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, thank you so much.
Well, hello.
Great job. Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, there were no public speakers.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, that's why I skipped over. I'm sorry, you're right. And so at this time, we'll have our reports by Finance Director.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council, citizens of Fairburn.
Good evening.
I'll be presenting the financial report for the months ending on January 31st. Next slide. Ms. Driver. At the end of January, we had a general fund that was for our fourth month of operations. We had a $4.8 million cash flow. To date, the general fund has generated $14.3 million in revenue with $12.7 million in general fund expenditures. As of January 31st, 2023, that should say, my apologies, the city has collected 60% of year-to-date revenues that we have budgeted. We have expensed about 36% of our budget. As you know, this is about a third of the way through the year, 33%, 25% in that area is where we should be. Last item on this slide, property and local option sales tax revenue. Real property tax represents 68% of general fund revenue. Loss represents about 10% of general fund revenue. For the 2023 budget, you can see our total revenues budgeted are $23,744,366. Year to date, we have collected $14,337,446. For For the month of January, we collected $4,977,880. That is about 60% of the revenue that we budgeted for the year. So we are ahead of pace so far this year. For expenditures, you can see we budgeted $23,877,044. Year-to-date expenditures are $6,426,100, which is about 27% of our budget. Property tax revenues, you can see here we have collected about 80% of our property tax revenues for calendar year of 2022. I will tell you that the staff is still working diligently to collect those still outstanding numbers. You can see last year, I think we collected about 98%. We do expect those revenues to come in, but from what I understand, this is sort of par for the course at this time of year. We are looking very good, and I think you'll see with our real property tax numbers, we have already exceeded some of those numbers, what we budgeted. For our enterprise funds, our total revenues, $21,374,132. Year-to-date, $6,816,064. For the month of January, we collected $1.8 million. That's $1,804,768. For the year-to-date, we have collected $6,816,000, which is 32% of our revenues through 4 months for the enterprise funds. Also on the enterprise funds with our 2023 budget, total expenditures $21,374,132. Year-to-date expenditures $4,946,280, which is 23%. Are there any questions regarding the financial report?
Are there any questions, members of council? Ms. Davis?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Your City of Fairburn General Fund, Mr. Stevens, the summary of revenues for the month ending January 31st. The real property tax, you have a percentage of year-to-date revenue of 122%.
Yes, we budgeted $7,990,116, and we have already collected $9.7 million.
$9,746,000 we've collected.
That's just in real property tax.
Okay, that's real property tax.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's go back to the property tax revenue in reference to the collection. Has there been any issues in reference to our citizens having difficulty having to pay the property tax this year?
I have not heard those, Councilman Davis. I'm sure there are some. We have not, and usually some of those do get escalated to me if there is an issue. I feel calls sometimes from hardships, things of that nature, but I have not found a pattern of that going on. I haven't fielded a large number of those calls. However, what I will do is follow up with my staff and make sure that I get you an answer on that if maybe they're hearing it and I'm not hearing it, but that's something I can follow up for you on.
Well, I have heard some citizens, especially our seniors who are on fixed income, having concerns about having to pay the property taxes. So I just wanted to see the depth of that, or have you heard that, or is it coming here? Because it looks like our collection's a little bit lower than normal from your graph.
Yes.
So if you could please somehow resource that for me. And I would like to know what kind of remedies or what do we have in place if we have seniors on fixed income having those concerns and issues.
Absolutely. We'll look into that for you and make sure we get you an answer.
I would add
The administrator, yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, you may recall that Mayor and Council approved a revision to our homestead exemption, our veterans exemptions that go into effect in the current year. So it is not for the property taxes that may be in arrears, but there are exemptions that were revised and upgraded and expanded that will be in place going forward that began this year. So I, like our finance director, have not gotten a significant number of calls from seniors with that issue. I would not at all suggest that there are not seniors that may have that issue. We have not to date seen a pattern of consistency where seniors are at least contacting City Hall or government to say, I'm having a financial strain.
Okay, yeah, I'm aware of those homestead exemptions. I was behind them for like 2 years to get them done. But I would like to know some stats on that because I think there are some other things that we can do with our seniors that are on fixed income. And I'm kind of, I know to our city administration, George Marie, I am working on some ideas that we can help our seniors on fixed income because it's definitely a hardship. And if you look at, on one of the slides, the progression of our property taxes have increased tremendously in the last 3 years. And I know we haven't increased, yeah, but real estate property has increased.
So,
And so,
have gone up. I
Yeah.
just want to be clear that
oh, no, we have not, absolutely, we have not. But even though we have not done anything, there's still an effect, adverse effect on our seniors. So I would like for us to see what we can do in reference to that. I have some ideas that I will be bringing forth in the near future. So that's just a concern I have. But thank you, Mrs. Stevenson, for the report.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
We
it.
will get you the follow-up.
Thank you.
Did any other member of council have a question?
I have one question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
How much do we have in reserves?
We are in the process of going through our audit. I would not want to publicly say what our reserve is until we actually finish the audit. It should be done by the end of March. But at that point in time, and we will address this in our retreat and also in our mid-year budget.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Seeing none? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
City manager?
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to briefly summarize from this month's City Administrator Report that covers the month of January, building on the State of the City presentation from the
Speaking to the
Mayor.
mic.
Forgive me, I want to make sure I'm speaking into the mic. So I wanted to present a summary of the month of January for our City Administrator's Report, building on the State of the City speech that the Mayor gave so well earlier in the meeting. We are well positioned as a city to build on the record of success and achievements from the past year, both fiscally and operationally as well. And I'd like to pause right here and take a moment to commend our city staff holistically, all of our city staff. I firmly believe, and I think the evidence will show, that we're building one of the best staffs in any city around. We have a lot of hard-working men and women. I've been doing local government for a long time, and often people will look at the city administrator's office or the elected officials. I know where the work gets done, and it's our staff, and they've done a tremendous job. We've got room to grow, a lot of room to get better. If better is possible, good is not enough, and that's how we work each and every day. But we do a tremendous job with the hardworking men and women in this city, and I just wanted to begin by making sure that I made mention of that. Again, we are in a stable financial position. We'll have more dialogue about that in the coming months, particularly as we go to our retreat, where we will detail that in significant detail, where we are financially, reserves, fund balance, all of those issues. We've got some recommendations from staff that we'll be talking about around those issues as well. Summarizing for the month of January, we've had some really good things to happen. Our LMIG application, Lester Thompson has again done a tremendous job, was approved by the state. That is the funding that has allowed us to resurface those 13 miles of roads that you saw referenced in the state and city address. Lester Thompson has done a tremendous job for several years now in securing that, not only that funding, but funding from a number of other sources as well. Several of us, I know several council members were with us when we celebrated the grand opening of Raymond Carolina Handling, a new business here in Fairburn that we're excited at 92 Howell Avenue, bringing new jobs to the city. That continues the trend of new businesses coming to Fairburn. The word about Fairburn is getting out and getting around. And it's a good word, and folks are wanting to come here and do business. We will always want to make sure we do smart growth and smart development, but I would tell you that our reputation as a city is on the rise. We have enhanced our cybersecurity. You can never do enough on cybersecurity. For everything you put in place, the hackers figure out another way to work around it.
Yep.
So it's a constant focus for us. We are very fortunate now that we have an IT manager on board, Mr. Charles Johnson, working with Dana Smith, our buildings and facilities director. The two of them working together have helped us to move forward in this area. It'll be a constant battle, because they're always out there looking for ways to crack our system. But we took a big step forward with our No Before program, which will help educate our staff in how to recognize threats to our system. The Parks Master Plan has been issued. The RFP is on the street. It will be closing early next month. I am truly excited about that, as well as I know Ms. Scott is as well. We both have participated in a similar effort before. I can tell you that it will be a tremendous roadmap forward for the city to talk about all of our goals and aspirations. And part of it that I'm most excited about is we have insisted, both in our scope of work and as we evaluate the bids, that it be collaborative. This will be the voice of our citizens and our residents solidly in the middle of this Parks Master Plan. And so I'm looking forward to the engagement with our community, to hear their voices in this process, as well as our elected officials. The new program that the mayor talked about, the Music Education Group, it is a wonderful program. We've got a tremendous opportunity. Not only people hear music program and they think we're trying to teach kids to be rappers, and that's not what this is. It's technology driven. It teaches them the business side of music so that they understand how there are different income streams, different career paths. And so I just want folks to know the scope of that, and want to thank the Parks and Recreation Department for leading that effort. The old Campbell County Courthouse, we have finished the asbestos abatement and debris removal, and so we are excited about that moving forward. There's a long path ahead of us, but it was important that we stabilized the facility, that we abated the asbestos, and got the debris out of the facility. That was a significant move. We're still working with our insurance provider on the ultimate path forward for that, so you'll receive additional updates. And lastly, the temporary fire station building has been delivered and is partially erected here at our Public Safety Training Center. So that work moves forward. The bays will be going in soon, and so that will add another fire presence on that side of the city, which is much needed, even as we move forward on Fire Station 23. We want to maintain our top flight #1 ISO rating, so that's why that facility was necessary. And fortunately, we're well on our way to getting that up and running. I know that Chief Robinson and Dana Smith are working diligently on that and making significant progress. With that, I hope you've had the opportunity to read the whole of the City Administrator's report, and I'll stop there to answer any questions you may have.
Any members of council have a question about the administrator's report? All right, seeing none, I'll go
Mayor,
to,
I'm sorry, if I could, one additional point.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to acknowledge and thank our fire department. The city of Chattahoochee Hills had a significant fire in the Serenbe area a couple of weeks ago, and through our mutual aid relationships with local departments, Fairburn, along with several other departments, were there to help fight that fire, to be of aid to both the city of Chat Hills, Palmetto, several other fire departments were there. It is really inspiring to see how these agencies work together when there's a significant fire safety issue in the region. And so we've got a good collaborative work process, and I just wanted to commend our fire department. There were folks who were literally having to escape those buildings while they were on fire, and we had one of the first engines on site. So thank you to Chief Robinson and our fire department for that.
Awesome.
you had a question, go ahead.
Yes, I have one question. Mr. Phillips, where are we with the courthouse?
So as I mentioned briefly, I'll expound upon that, and I won't go too far. Mr. Smith, he's gone for the evening. And so the abatement process, which is kind of the first step in securing the facility, early on, as soon as the fire was under control, we began mitigation efforts. We got a tarp on the roof to present water intrusion. That's one of the most dangerous issues for a building that old, is for you to let water get into it. We fenced it, we secured it, we boarded up all the windows. But that building, being the age that it is, had a lot of asbestos in it. Once asbestos is disturbed, then it becomes a risk. And so we had to work with a vendor that was qualified in asbestos removal to not only get the debris out of the building, but to get all of the asbestos out of the building as well. We've had a engineer to go in and do an assessment of the facility. The good news is, without going into great depth, what I would tell you is the bones of the building, the structure of the building is sound. And so that was a good report that we got. We are still working through the process of our insurance claim, which is significant. And so that process is ongoing, and we're still dialoguing with our insurance provider as to ultimately what this claim will provide in terms of restoring the facility, what they will do. And so that is still an ongoing process. We have had a number of advocacy groups for historic buildings to reach out to the city. We've had a couple of virtual meetings. There are a lot of folks very interested in the facility's future. And so as we move forward, we get an answer from the insurance company that will begin to clarify our next steps. Ultimately, we'll have to decide if and how we can fund this renovation. It'll be significant. I don't have a number for you in this conversation, but it will be significant. And so those questions remain to be answered, but there's a process as we move forward to see what the insurance claim provides and then figuring out what the next steps should be as we answer questions about what it would take to take that facility to the next phase.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with that being said, I'll go to council comments. I'll start with Ms. Porter-Jones.
First of all, I want to start by saying congratulations, Mayor, on the fantastic report on the state of the city. It's really amazing to see how much was accomplished in 1 year. But you can do that when you have great teamwork and a great team. And you mentioned that several times, and I would agree with you that we have become a great team and continue to work together for the betterment of the city. Secondly, I also want to thank you again, Mayor, for the letter that was written to our legislatures regarding the building design standards. That's a huge piece of legislation that will have detrimental impact if it passes. But unfortunately, it has traction in the wrong direction. So it's something that we truly have to be concerned about. Another one I would ask that we also write a letter on, and that has to do with increase in truck weights. That too has gained traction, and that would have a huge impact, not only to us financially in terms of road damage and repair, and of course there's no discussion about that part, but secondly about the impact that it will have on the safety of our residents. And given that Highway 29, US 29, major thoroughfare right through our city, that would have a huge impact. So we need to express our concerns about that as well. So if you can follow up on that ASAP, that would be fantastic. Other than that, I want to say that I hope our citizens really heard and digested what was presented here tonight, and that we welcome any input from you and hope that you will respond when we reach out to you regarding the various master plans that were mentioned here tonight. So again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for the outstanding job for making us all look good. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Whitmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, congratulations on the State of the City address. As we all well know, there was a lot of accomplishments that took place in the previous year. There's been plenty of communications, even with myself and the city administrator and assistant administrator, and we know we still have some projects that's still lingering out there that we're looking forward to having come to fruition, as well as we have some special things that we're we're looking to hear that we can put in a plus column as being completed. Really especially happy to hear about the parks, looking at that project there, just looking at parks across the city and not just the Duncan Park. And I think it's going to be a benefit to the citizens. So, as well as looking at putting a nice facility out at Duncan Park. It's going to be a plus for our citizens in many, many ways. So we just look forward to a lot of the things that were identified and discussed via the State of the City address. And I just want to also thank all of staff. And again, I think I have come in communication with probably about 99% of them. And just say thank you for all that you're doing, and just keep up the good work. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Palin?
This guy got elected a year or so ago, and he was responsible for where we find ourselves today. I think it's remarkable, and I think it very clearly foretells how much better we're going to be as we go through the next year and the year after that. So I would also mention that indeed part and parcel of everything that's good for us is as a result of the people that he has gathered together to accomplish that mission. Okay, you do it well, and it's a delight to see this. I can't wait. God, from my lips to God's ears, I'm not talking about waiting for next Valentine's Day and candy and things like that. But I really can't wait to see where we're going to be 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I think it's going to be a most interesting place, and very clearly, people will be talking about us all around, and that's a big, big plus. So there you have it.
All right, sir. Mr. Heath?
Mayor, I just appreciate everything you've done with bringing all of the people, the heads of the departments and everything to our city to focus on the people, the citizens of Fairburn, and that's who we work for. And I just appreciate everybody's effort and every little thing. I mean, you may think it's insignificant, but believe me, the citizens pay attention to what's going on. They may not act like it at times, but they do. Of course, I hang out at Judy's for lunch most of the time, and everybody comes in and talking about the remarkable things that are going on in our city. And, you know, that kind of makes you feel like, hey, we're actually doing something to impress the people, the citizens, the taxpayers of this city, and giving them some of their due back. Also, I'm very ecstatic about the idea of putting a building out at Duncan Park, because when we went to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and saw a library that they had converted the basement into like teaching people how to do canning, ceramics, making quilts, and all that kind of stuff, that gave me an idea of something I would like to see here in Fairburn. And so I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I'm just glad to see that something is trickling that way that will be of entertainment to the people here in Fairburn. And like I say, I just appreciate the work that our city manager does and his assistant. And I just once again, I just can't say enough nice things about things, and it's just nice to be able to do that. And thank y'all all the department heads, all the employees. Thank y'all for what you do, because it makes us look good. And I just appreciate the fact that I don't have to shrink up or hide from other people, knowing that there's something that has taken place that is not satisfying the public. So thank you. I appreciate y'all and love y'all. Take care. God bless.
All right, sir. Mr. Smallwood?
And I too just salute the mayor, because he, before he was elected, well, sworn in, he made some promises, and I watched that time. It was about an hour's worth of accomplishments, nonstop, that we talked about tonight, and that just speaks a lot to the job that's been done by you, by us. And there's two, I'm always saluting fire, police, all staff, because we are the ones, you guys are the ones that make it work. But there's two departments I want to just highlight tonight, the street crew that keep the streets clean, because we're growing in Fairburn. If this is, I'm a metaphor guy too, so it's like if this is our house, we got a lot of company coming in and through our house, and they don't treat our house like they should, but I was that one that had to clean up the dishes when everybody left. So that's those people out there. Every day I'll see it when I leave, and then I'm like, no, it was a cup and paper there, and it's no longer there. So I don't see them all the time, and I know they think, who's that crazy man? I always say, thank y'all for what you're doing, yelling out my window and in the car, but they're out there cleaning up. 74 in particular, where I roam a lot, which is where I am, and it's constantly being cleaned. And then I see already code enforcement, they're out there, increased because I work from home, so it's warmer now. I'm able to pull up the garage door and with my computer, and that little silver truck is just constantly roaming through my cul-de-sac now. Got me kind of worried at first. Like, what y'all, that's the second time I'm seeing y'all, but that's just a result of them now being out in more force, making sure the city is looking good. Those are the things that's keeping us and has our word going out. So thank you, everybody, because I travel a lot around Atlanta, but I can't wait to get back to the Fairburn city limits, because it's definitely different.
It's home.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I tell you, Mayor, I just want to congratulate you. As being the mayor of our city, that care about the citizens, that care about our staff, that's very intentional on bringing in the right people in the right positions. I sat here tonight, and it was almost like, you know how you've gone to some kind of contest that your child may be in, and they've done such an outstanding job when at one time you thought, I don't know how they're gonna do. And your heart is just kind of pounding because they did so wonderfully. That's how I felt when the mayor was up there listening and listing all the things that has happened in a year's time frame. It's incredible. I mean, it's easy to see it listed, but it took hours and hours of planning and coming together and encouraging our staff and coalescing and working as a team, and no big I, but a big we. And that culture did not exist before. The culture before, and Mayor, I'm going there too. And you needed to go there in the beginning. The culture before was toxic. I had to go away to a quiet place. And it was hurtful. So to see where we have come just does my heart so good. Mayor, I want a copy of your report. That's all I have to say. I'm getting too full.
Mayor, please forgive me, but I left something out that I simply have to say.
Okay.
And that is, I want to thank the mayor and council. I am grateful and honored to serve this city. So thank you. And I've been doing this for nearly 25 years. I've worked with a lot of elected officials. I respect the way the 7 of you work together. It is not the norm. And in cities where mayor and councils and elected officials can't get along, it doesn't matter what staff is doing. And so thank you for your leadership. I really appreciate it.
Well, in my closing remarks, I just like one area of our city that I left out that we take for granted, well, not when I say we, that people take for granted, that we've saved so much money right now as a result of Roy Stock, our city attorney and his staff. They've saved us. They walked in the door a year ago today. I still remember literally trying to pull together an emergency hearing that would have cost us thousands of dollars. And I have to commend the city attorney and the staff, Ms. Noel and the new young lady. They saved us, basically in this case, from basically being sued for negligence. And again, that's something that people take for granted. Is probably one of the most, the city clerk, is the city attorney's position is, in this case, is so critical. So I apologize, I left that out because again, the city attorney saved us a lot of money in terms of litigation, and hopefully he'll save us some more that's coming. And so I want to just mention too, thank you guys about the, I want to also mention too, the letter that went out to our state representatives about House Bill 517, actually, unknown to me, actually, Mayor Pro Tem had actually inquired about this a week ago because of a conversation at GMA. I found that out after I had composed the letter, but I wanted to thank you, Ms. Davis, as well. But then, and finally, ladies and gentlemen, I've said it all through the city council, through the mayor's address. Again, I don't take it for granted that we as a governing body, again, and I don't want anybody to walk away here to think that the 6 people up here are a bunch of yes people. They're everything but that. Amen. And so, but again, we've been blessed to learn how to disagree without being disagreeable and still operate in a professional manner. So again, in my closing remark, I want to thank not only our staff, but thank the 6 members of council, and I pray that we continue to make a mark in this city that'll be talked about for decades. Do we have an executive session? Thank goodness. Okay. Okay. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pat. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.